Hello everybody, this is John. Welcome to the Ag Weather Outlook for April 22nd, 2017. Well, across parts of the Midwest at least, the severe activity has slowed down a bit. We have some cooler, more stable air in place now. There's been continued rain over most areas, but not all. And overall, we have a lack of drought. Only 2% of corn production is currently indicated in drought. So really hardly anything, pretty much none. It's been unusually mild, but there has been a change, and we could get into a change in this pattern that could last us through the end of the month into early May. Now, as far as precipitation goes over the last week, areas in yellow, eastern Kansas, northwest Missouri, south central Iowa, scattered areas of Illinois, Michigan, that received the most rain, those areas, 2 inches or more. Now, there were some light spots. These are some of these areas in blue. That's only about a quarter inch or so. And then the trend we've had now for quite some time, the upper Midwest here, that's been quite dry, not just over the last week. For a number of weeks now, that's been the area that's been dry. Matter of fact, if we look at the last 30 days, I have this labeled 14. This is actually the last 30 days. We can see where the rain was most extensive, and that's that area in red, 5 inches or more. If we look at Oklahoma, parts of southern Missouri, if you look closely, you see a little purple, even that's up to 8 inches or more. And you can see that that extended right through this area right here. So parts of eastern Kansas, western Missouri, generally eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and Michigan, quite a bit of rain over the last 30 days. Now, some areas that didn't get that much rain, not as much over the eastern corn belt. For example, Ohio, 2 to 3 inches of rain, looks like more like 2 to me. Most of Indiana, although it's been scattered, the northern half a little bit more. And eastern Illinois, not as much as the west and the north. But this has been the more persistent area of light precipitation. North Dakota, Minnesota, parts of South Dakota, only an inch or two of rain. So that's sort of been the summary for the last 30 days. Now, over North Dakota and Minnesota, maybe it was somewhat good. We didn't get too much rain because remember, those rivers are running very high in that area. So the maximum consecutive dry days also shows where we've had the dry weather. The areas of the yellows and browns right in here had as many as 20 out of the last 30 days have been no measurable precipitation. But look at these areas of blue. Lots of rainy days. Matter of fact, it's only gone maybe 2 to 3 days, without some rain in those areas. So the eastern corn belt, not necessarily a lot of rain in a lot of areas, but definitely every 2-3 days there has been some rainfall. I thought you might be interested in seeing all the snow for the season. Now that we're done with the snow, you can see that this has been a season with very little snow over the middle part of the nation. Even Iowa, look at Iowa, southern Iowa there, only 2 to 4, maybe 6 inches of snow. So not all that much. Illinois, 6 inches of snow, up to 8 inches of snow. So really not a whole lot, especially this area that we have actually this whole area here, less snow than normal. So that's been the story. I think you all know that as we headed out through winter and ended our snow season. So temperatures, lots of red again for the last week. The average temperature well above normal temperatures. Look at the eastern corn belt, Indiana and Ohio, that darker red. That's 10 degrees or more above normal. But there is a change here, and I wanted to sort of get into this weather map here and just sort of show you. We have this front right here and another front right here and an area of high pressure here, and that's bringing colder air down into the region. This area of high pressure and this area of high pressure is transporting some colder air. And when we look at how temperatures have changed over the last 24 hours, you can identify that front. These 14 degrees colder, 13, 12, 16, 18 degrees colder in the last 24 hours. So that shows where that colder air, the leading edge of the colder air, is pushed in. Quick summary of the leaf index. You can see here that it's expanded well to the north due to that warm temperatures over the last week. You can see lots of red now, and that's indicating that the leaf sprouting continues to be earlier than normal. You know, you can sort of look at this here. You can see these dark reds here, and this is indicating that up to this point right here, we were running about 20 days earlier than normal. Then as it spread north, it's still earlier than normal. That's why we have the red. We don't have blue shades. but not so much. But still a week or so earlier than normal now that we're working up well into the northern tier of the U.S. As far as soil moisture goes, I think I've showed you the precipitation, so I won't dwell on it a lot. I will say that we do have adequate soil moisture in most areas, but there are some areas where we're lagging a bit. This is the 1 month change, and this is where it's drying out. So you can see brown is where soils have dried out, the dark shade of brown significantly drying out over the last month, and blue is indicating where soils have gotten wetter over the last month, especially those really dark shades of blue, Kansas, parts of Missouri, southeast Nebraska, small part of Iowa, really has seen a very big change in soil moisture. Here are your soil temperatures. With that cooler air pushing in, I think we're going to sort of keep things slowed down a bit as we go forward than we had earlier in the month of April. Now, rivers, as you would expect this time of year, are running high. This is nothing out of the ordinary. Yellow is within banks, but running very high. Orange is minor flooding, and we actually have a few spots. That's where more significant flooding is occurring, the red boxes. Okay, so the jet stream this week and probably next week, we have a dip in the jet stream. I've indicated it by that red dashed line, and that has brought some cooler air in. You can see we have this initial band here. It's really cooled down, but look at this up here. We have a secondary band that should be pushing in, and that each one of those is going to be accompanied by some precipitation, not necessarily severe weather, but maybe the chance of some heavier rainfall. Now, for the next 5 days, I don't really see that. There'll be some precipitation. It's going to be more modest in the half-inch to inch range. So the first 5 days, yes, we'll get some precipitation, especially over parts of southeast Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, right in this region here. But the rest of the area should be fairly quiet. Now, this is out there, a ways out there, days 6 and 7. But there is the prospect of a stronger storm system and a better chance of heavier precipitation in this area. So right now, when I see a precipitation quantity forecast that far out, I think the best thing to do is just keep an eye on it. But it does show that there is the prospects of heavier rain and some pretty saturated soils over these areas in darker blue. But again, that's out there, so let's just keep an eye on it. As we get into today's 6 to 10 days out, the end of April into early May, we have a secondary front pushing through. There's your cooler air. And the reason we're going to get that chance of heavier rain is because of this boundary. Look at this. We have that spring clash. Warm air over the eastern Corn Belt, cold air over the upper Midwest. That boundary is where we will get that chance of the heaviest rain. Then as we get into the 11 to 15 day range, the 2nd through the 7th, we get back into this somewhat of a southwest flow. That brings in milder weather and we warm up again. So let's sort of review temperatures before I get on to precipitation. Starting out a bit on the cool side, then we get into about a week out from now, 5 to 7 days out, we get a strong contrast with warmer air over the west, colder air over the northwest, or I should say colder air over the northwest and warmer air over the east. We get that boundary, and then as we get into the 11 to 15 day, we moderate, not all that strong, a little bit above normal over most of the region. Precipitation, not so much the first 5 days, but then we start to get in the possibility at the end of week 1 into early week 2 of a pretty wet pattern, and let's keep an eye on that. And with that wet pattern, 3 to 7 day hazards, lots of things to look at. This is spring, but the hazards over the Midwest here, these green lines are saying the potential for heavy rain. This would be the 26th and the 27th, and then we have the 28th in this range. So that's going to be the big story I think we're going to be looking at this week, is watching the end of this week and then into early or next weekend at this time. I think it could be a lot more active. Again, I've said it many times, it's way out there. That can change a lot, so let's don't count on it yet, but it is something we need to watch. Hope you all have a great week, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll be talking with you again.